Going into the presidential debate tonight, Donald Trump is commanding a slight lead in national polling against Kamala Harris, but a lot is at stake. My dad is here to give President Trump a little bit of advice and to give you our analysis of where we are in the race. We are also going to look at some policies of Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump, economic policies, immigration policies that will have a real effect not only on your life, but on your children's lives. So we'll get into all of that today. But before we start that conversation with my dad, I've got a fun announcement. You might have already seen it on Instagram and X, but our Share the Arrows event, which is coming up on September 28th in Dallas, Texas. It's an amazing women's event, but it just got so much more amazing because Candace Cameron Bure, that's right, DJ Tanner from Full House, amazing actress and author and mom, and a wonderful, beautiful representation of Christianity in entertainment and the public sphere. She is going to be there. She is going to be at Share the Arrows. I am going to be interviewing her on stage. We're going to have a very candid conversation on how to represent and champion Christian values, not just out in the world and at work and in entertainment, but also at home. She is a mom of three, and she's raised three beautiful children and has a lot of advice to the women who are going to be in attendance. I am so excited. So if you have not gotten your tickets, let this be the thing that pushes you over the edge. Our other speakers are absolutely incredible too. We've got Rosaria Butterfield, we've got Elisa Childers, we've got Abby Halberstadt, Francesca Battistelli, Grammy Award-winning artist, is going to be leading worship. There's going to be thousands of you at Prestonwood Baptist Church, Plano, Texas, September 28th. It's going to be incredible. I'm also rocking our Share the Arrows merch, and I would turn around and show you the back because that's like the cool part, but we'll just like put up a graphic that we have to show you how awesome it is. And these are only going to be available, and the rest of our Share the Arrows merch, for event attendees. You got to be there. You got to be there to get the cool merchandise. And I am so excited, you guys. So go ahead and sign up. We have balcony seating left. General admission is sold out. So that's just like mezzanine and floor seating. Balcony seating is open, but these are not worse seats by any means. These are actually incredible seats. It's just a matter of, spacing and logistics that we only have that open now, but go ahead and buy your ticket. Also, if you want to meet Candace Cameron, if you want to meet the rest of our speakers, if you want to meet me, you can buy our VIP package. A lot of you have already signed up for that, so I'm super pumped to meet you guys. And that is Friday night. So that's Friday night, September 27th. That's the VIP dinner. You'll get to meet all the speakers, listen to live music, have an awesome dinner. You can also purchase our breakfast option. That's breakfast with me and some of the other event attendees the morning of the event. And then if you want to go all out and purchase an all access pass, you get to come to all of that, and you get to come backstage and meet everyone. And that's a really cool experience too. And the VIP breakfast ticket holders, all access ticket holders, you all get preferred seating at the very front of the sanctuary. So whatever you want to do, we've got an option for you. And I'm just so excited for you guys to be there. Go to sharethearrows.com. All the information is there. I'll also be putting out an FAQ on the website and an email on social media because a lot of y'all have very valid and good questions. This is our first ever event, so some of this stuff we're still figuring out ourselves, and I just want to do our very best to serve you and for you to have a wonderful, smooth, efficient, edifying experience. So we are working very, very hard to make that happen. September 28th, sharethearrows.com. Check that out. Also, I was just reminded we have just another smaller announcement, but still important. We've got some new merch, and that is our Jesus Wins merch. It's an election season, y'all, and we just want to remember who wins. Who wins in the end. That doesn't mean it doesn't matter who wins the election. Of course, that matters a lot. But in the end, Jesus wins. And these sweatshirts and these hats are embroidered. And so really high quality. We've been working on these for several months now, making sure that we have the right options. We've got hoodies, we've got crew necks, we've got a dad hat, we've got a rope hat. I love them all. I'm super excited about this. Jesus wins. You can go to alliemerch.com. Check those out. All right, that's it for housekeeping and announcements. Now we are going to get into the conversation about the debate and this election with my dad. I think he is y'all's favorite guest. Am I right? I always get comments and messages about how comforting he is, but also how spot on his analysis is. So y'all are going to love this conversation. This is brought to you by Friends of Good Ranchers. Go to goodranchers.com. Use code Allie at checkout. That's goodranchers.com, code Allie. Dad, welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back. It's been a while since I've sat on the Stuckey couch.
Yes, I know, but that's not for lack of trying. My people have tried to contact your people, and you have been busy.
Yeah, that's right. We have been busy.
But you're here.
That's been great.
Okay, so Trump is debating tonight, and I think it was the last time we talked in person here, we both kind of said, I don't think that he should do that. I don't think he should debate Kamala Harris. Do you still feel that way?
Absolutely. This is just going to be another way for the media, starting tonight and going on for the next week or two, to just prop her up. She's not going to make any mistakes. She has been prepping for this debate, which means all she's doing is memorizing answers. Mm-hmm. And so all they're going to do is prop her up. As we're reading last night that ABC, of all the stories they put out about her, 100% positive.
Yep.
What they put out about President Trump, 93% negative. So how do you think this is going to go?
Yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. He's already debated the policies that she stood for. Mm-hmm. Why would he do that again? He needs to be in those swing states. Mm-hmm. So that he controls the message. Mm-hmm. He's not going to control the message tonight, no matter what he does.
Yeah, that was according to a Media Research Center. They found that the coverage, like you said, of Harris was 100% positive. Now, consider that of all of the things any politician has ever said, surely the sentinels of our democracy, that's what they think of themselves as in the media, would have something negative to say about the person in power, but apparently not. Okay, but they are debating. All right, so
they didn't listen to it, so they're doing it.
They made the decision to debate. And just to play devil's advocate, because when I said I don't think he should debate her, there were a lot of people who said, well, that's just going to look really bad. He's going to look cowardly. She's going to be able to basically call him a chicken, and you're scared of a girl. That kind of playground rhetoric may have been effective if he had said no. What do you think about that? Do you think it would have looked even worse if he would have seemed too scared to debate her?
Oh, I think the media would have tried to do that, but I think he could have an effect on the messaging. He could say, I've already debated the policies. Have your policies changed? If they've changed, why don't you send them to me? Come up with your new policies, Ms. Harris, and send them to me, and then I'll think about debating you. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll invite you to one of my rallies, and we can talk there if you want to. I'm happy to see if you can convince all the people that come out and support me.
Yeah. I think that their strategy is going to be on the Harris side to try to trigger him. Actually, Hillary Clinton, who apparently is advising Kamala Harris, I don't know why they would get the advice of Hillary Clinton. Obviously, she lost, but is advising Kamala Harris on this. And she told the media that she has advised her to try to get under his skin, to try to bait him, to try to see if she can trigger him, which is the right strategy if you're looking from her perspective. And Trump needs to seem, as he did in the last debate, which I think he did excellent against Joe Biden, unperturbed, dignified, even compassionate, a little sorry feeling for her. He cannot come across as a triggered bully. If people remember that fateful debate that he had against Joe Biden in 2020, Joe Biden was already looking old. He was already looking doddering. And I think Team Trump hoped that that contrast back then would really help. And if Trump looked strong and overpowering, that would be beneficial to him. It did the opposite.
Right.
We have the risk of that tonight. She's 5'2" with shoes on. He is 6'4". If he looks like he is overpowering her and talking over her, because I think the mics are going to be on the whole time, if he looks like a bully, that will elicit sympathy for Kamala Harris. Sympathy is the last emotion that we want America to feel for her.
I don't think, Allie, unless they changed it lately, that the mics are going to be on the whole time. I think they're going to be muted. Has that changed?
Bree, can you fact check us on that? I know that there was a debate over that Kamala Harris wanted them on the whole time.
I don't think they ever agreed to it.
Okay.
Either
way.
Is that going to be cut?
No.
Or is that
Well, I don't care. I don't know. We might cut it. We might not cut it. Who knows?
Okay.
Either way, whether the mics are on or not.
Yeah.
He needs to seem completely unbothered by her and totally focused on talking to the American people. Do not because she'll be like a mosquito, just baiting him. And he cannot let her do that.
And that's what you and I said the first time on why he shouldn't debate her, because it's all going to be about her baiting him. And even if the mics are off, okay, when they come back on, he needs to resist the urge to lash back out at her personally. And you can bet when they do this side by side, they're going to make him look like a giant.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
That's just what's going to happen. And she is going to be stoic. She will handle that well. She knows how to do that. She's an actor. She's been an actor in a sense, in the courtroom and other places. So I think it's a high risk. Now, if she flubs it, which I don't think she will, because they've already set really low expectations for her, then maybe it was an advantage, but I don't see it as an advantage.
I don't think that she will. Now, because she's going to have, as you said, very prepared remarks.
Yep.
She's not good off the cuff. Extemporaneously, she is, I think, rather bumbling and embarrassing. And if Trump can somehow trigger her into that, to talking in circles, trying to give an account for how she flip-flopped on things like fracking and illegal immigration, then that would be good. But the moderators aren't going to do it. The thing with this is that for Trump, and again, the reason why we said don't do it is because it's going to be the moderators and Kamala Harris against Donald Trump.
Yep.
He is going to be, I think, the only one who is made to give specific answers. But which week do you want to ban abortion? Would you sign this legislation? What about XYZ? And he has to pivot. He should not be baited by, at what week do you want to ban abortion?
Yeah.
You got to pivot.
Yeah, no question about that. As we've talked about many times, the first rule in politics is you do never have to answer the question that someone asks you.
Yeah.
You take your points. And again, I think he should say, Madam Moderator, I'll answer your question. But first, however, this really goes back to the flip-flop that she's done on this issue or that issue or whatever, right? Something like that. That's what I would do, because that might be able to get her goat as well.
Okay, so Bree says that they are going to keep the mics muted in between, and Kamala Harris's campaign was saying for a while, we're not going to do this unless the mics are unmuted, because she knows how Trump kind of talks back, and she knew that would make her look better. They are going to do it. Okay. Kamala is now saying, though, that she is fundamentally disadvantaged by the current format, Bree. Is that right? So I don't know.
Although that's exactly what the Harris-Biden administration asked for in the first debate. It was them that pushed the muted mics in the first debate that Biden and Trump had.
Yeah.
And now they're saying, well, we're going to change that, right?
It does help. That does help Trump to mute the mics. So
thank
the Lord for muted mics.
Absolutely.
Okay, there are some mumblings of this. That Kamala Harris is going to say tonight to try to elicit sympathy and to try to put Trump off, that she herself had an abortion, and that she is going to tell this heartrending story about how she had to choose abortion and she's so glad that she had that option. I think Donald Trump, if she does that, should basically ignore that, or at the very most say something along the lines of, your life matters, but your baby's life mattered too. I want to make a country in which every mom and baby and dad are safe and prosperous.
Yep.
I think that's all he should do. He shouldn't go on and on about it. What is your thought?
Well, my first thought is it Willie Brown's? Was it Willie Brown's? Whose baby was it? If that's what she says.
Please, Donald Trump, don't say that. Don't say that on the debate
He's not going to
stage.
say that, but I mean, that's my first thought.
He might.
No, I think he should either ignore it, like you said, or just say, that's a very sad scenario that, we had a baby die.
Yeah.
That's what's sad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think but then you pivot.
Yeah.
You pivot. You don't, because the media is going to try to paint her as a hero for being so honest and so real about that. And that's going to be relatable to one set of people, but to a whole other set of people, that's going to be like, really? You sacrificed your baby for your whatever?
Right.
And so he just needs to be smart about that. Any other advice?
I think she takes a risk in saying that herself, though, because
She does.
what's the reason behind it?
Yeah.
What's your reason for doing that? Just because it would help your career? I don't think that'll gain as much sympathy as she thinks it would.
Right. And I that's why I'm not sure that she will end up saying that.
I think that the other advice I would give him is his last 2 minutes. He speaks last, okay, for the closings, which I read this morning. And so for that, I would just focus on those policy things. I would never mention her name. All right. I would only focus on inflation and immigration. Inflation and immigration. The polling shows that he way outperforms in those areas.
Yeah. Well, she's flip-flopped so much. She has said over and over again, we played a whole montage last week of her saying crossing the border illegally is in itself a crime.
Yes, it is, actually.
Yeah. And she doesn't believe it should be a crime. So just think about the massive implications and the cascading effect of something like that. All right, quick pause to tell you guys about our first sponsor for the day. It's Adele Natural Cosmetics. Every morning and every night, I am using skincare from Adele Natural Cosmetics. I love that they are all natural, holistic ingredients right from nature. I don't have to worry about any fake toxic ingredients, the parabens, the fragrances, the endocrine disruptors that you find in so much skincare and in so many makeup products nowadays. Arlene started Adele Natural Cosmetics because of her own health journey. She really had to start paying attention to not just what she was putting in her body, but also on her body, just to make sure she was as healthy as possible. And that's when she began Adele Natural Cosmetics, and they make super effective all natural products. They are a family-owned company. They're a Christian family, completely unapologetic about their faith and their pro-life values. I love Adele Natural Cosmetics. Go to AdeleNaturalCosmetics.com. Use code Allie for 25% off your first time purchase. AdeleNaturalCosmetics.com, code Allie. All right, let's talk about the polls a little bit. Trump is doing better. Trump is doing better than he had previously. A New York Times Siena poll made headlines this weekend showing that Trump is pulling ahead of Vice President Harris by 1 point, which is kind of remarkable considering how much the media is against him.
Yeah, and they overpoll Democrats in that particular poll based on what I've read. The percentages generally should be, pretty split. If you're just looking at Republican or Democrat. If you throw independents in there, it changes a little bit. But what is really interesting, and Nate Silver, which a lot of people probably heard of, he's a pollster that had the website 538, and they look at a conglomeration of things. Real statistical guy. I read an article from him the other day that said that Kamala Harris in the national polling, which usually I don't pay much attention to, because it's really going to come down to individual state elections. People should really understand that this is about electing your state, electing the president through your votes. It's not about us as a massive number. But because of the number of people that live in New York and in California, the Democratic candidate, in this case Harris, needs to be ahead in national polling by more than 3 points to have a chance to win, because of the way the Electoral College works, right? They can run the score up in California, But if they win California by 2 million votes or 1 million votes, they still only get 55 delegates, right?
Right.
Doesn't really matter. And so the way and that's why Hillary Clinton lost.
Right.
Is because she didn't have that, right? She won by she won a bunch of the national numbers, but she didn't win enough to really make up for the difference. So this is good numbers for President Trump. I am still, though, concerned a little bit about his performance in some of the swing states.
Yeah. Right now, we've got some numbers from Real Clear Polling on that. Arizona, he's up by 1.6. And gosh, Harris is up in every other swing state: Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan. Pennsylvania's a tie. North Carolina, Trump up 0.1, and Georgia, Trump 0.3. And Nevada, for example, Harris is only up by 0.6, but Wisconsin 1.5, Michigan 1.2. And what's your take on those numbers?
Well, I would say that I would say Michigan has got to be a concern for Harris.
She wants it to be way more than that.
Oh, no question about it, because she won by Biden won by more than that in Michigan anyway. In 2020, I believe. And so that's a concern for her, because if she loses one of those states, I don't think she has a path, because I do think he's going to win Arizona. I do think he's going to win Georgia. Okay.
Biden won Georgia last time.
I know that, but I do think he's going to win Georgia. I think that the Republican Party has been awakened there to get moving. I hope, anyway. We have a lot of friends in Georgia.
I know. How much do you think this has to do with it being so close in Georgia, which it's just crazy that this is even considered a swing state now? How much do you think that has to do with Trump's adversarial relationship with Brian Kemp, who is a pretty popular governor among Republicans in Georgia?
I think that was a negative for him, no question about it. Now, supposedly they have, they've come back together, and we'll see if that's great. I have a very good friend that is very, very active in Georgia politics and has ran their Republican committee over there and what have you. He assures me that they're going to win Georgia, and he's usually right on this type of stuff. So we'll see how all that goes. I also think he'll win North Carolina. I don't think North Carolina has changed very much since 2020. And remember, Trump won North Carolina in 2020 when Biden was winning everything else. So
right, which is interesting. I mean, when you consider just the absolute campaign that the media has been forging for Kamala Harris, where they won't even say, for example, that Media Research Center study that we referenced earlier saying ABC is 100% positive coverage.
Right.
One of the other things that they found is that they never referred to her as liberal. And, I've noticed in all of Kamala Harris's ads that she seems to really be appealing to really white Rust Belt moderate Americans, which is really interesting. I think that's also why she picked Tim Walz, which now that I see the whole picture from her perspective, I do think that was the right pick, a smart pick for her. And so it's interesting. I really think that she is appealing hard to the white Christian moderate, even right-leaning voter who is tired of Donald Trump, and the media is helping her by not saying that she was literally the furthest left senator when she was in the Senate, even next to Bernie Sanders, not talking about her stance on immigration and abortion, but really fundamentally trying to gaslight everyone into believing that she's a center candidate when she's not at all.
Oh no, she's not. And I think the reason that she could pick somebody like a Tim Walz, you have to understand that fundamentally, and this is a generalization, so it's not every specific one, but fundamentally, people like her and people like Tim Walz, they know they're not going to be held accountable by the majority of the media. So lying and not telling the whole truth is not an issue for them. She knew that even though he was super liberal, he looks like a dad, right? He looks like a dad. He looks like a little league coach or football coach, whatever he was. And he talks like that, right? Now, it's all a scam, okay? It's all a scam because you should look at his actions. But see, we don't focus on people's actions. We focus on how they make us feel, which is totally, totally wrong, which is exactly what happened under Hitler, right? is that people didn't look at what what the Nazi Party was doing from 1928 or 29, whenever he came into power, to when war broke out. And all of these things were happening right under their nose. But he made them feel good because they had been abused in World War I after the Treaty of Versailles. They had a lot of restrictions put on them. And so they were looking for national pride. And when he was out in the public, that's what he was saying. And nobody was looking behind the curtain, right? Almost like the Wizard of Oz type thing. And that's what's happening here.
To be fair, I do think voters in a lot of different kinds of countries on both sides of the aisle do vote based on how a candidate makes them feel and not only on the policies. We shouldn't do that. But even going back to Nixon v. Kennedy in the first televised debate, I think the fact that Kennedy was attractive and Nixon looked like he was sick, it really helped Kennedy. It's PR, it's marketing, it's advertising. And I actually do think Trump could be a very likable, feel-good candidate. But of course, the media makes it very difficult when all they portray Trump as is angry and vengeful.
I agree.
And so he can't get out of his own way sometimes. But, you know, like I was thinking, this is kind of terrible to say, but really Republicans should have a better PR and marketing campaign and reputation than they do. I had a horrible interaction with this older lady on an airplane the other day. She was so grumpy, and our baby was doing nothing wrong. And yet when my husband was walking our baby just like down the aisle holding her of the plane, this lady lashed out at him and said, "Get it away from me. Get it away from me." It was a horrible experience and it was so weird. But I was thinking, I was like, I know exactly who she's voting for. I know exactly who she's voting for. And everyone else knows who she's voting for. And really, that's like the reputation of a lot of people who vote Democrat is angry, bitter people. And whenever I'm traveling to like southern states and I've got these older, like sweet southern grandparents on the plane, they're always so sweet to us and so kind. I'm like, wait, why don't we have a better portrayal of Republicans in the media when it's so obvious, at least to me, that Republicans should be the party of the child-loving, family-loving, nurturing, polite, kind, hospitable, generous people. And I even think that the numbers show that Republicans are more likely to give to charity than Democrats are. We're the ones that are running the pro-life pregnancy centers. We're so often the ones running even the church-led organizations to help the vulnerable people, whereas many times Democrats just want to outsource that compassion to the government. Like, we really need a better PR campaign on the Republican side to show that contrast.
Yeah, I think part of that, Allie, is that the Republican Party has been run by business people for a long time that have been focused almost singularly on the economy, which is super important, no question about it. And we haven't been focusing on our messaging to the everyday American. That's why Donald Trump won in 2016, because he did figure that out. And we haven't done a very good job of that, because you're exactly right. We take, the Republican Party takes those people like you're talking about for granted that they're going to vote. So why do I need to appeal to them? They haven't thought very good about their whole messaging idea. And even President Trump has advisors like Joe LaCivita, who is just, he is just harsh and crazy.
Chris LaCivita.
What his name is, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's just a harsh person, and that's who's kind of been around and done things like the criticism of Project 2025 is just asinine. You know, when the Center for American Progress, which is another think tank, but a far left think tank, it's so tied into the Harris campaign. It's all Obama people. Now, who's talking about that? Who's talking about what they're recommending versus what Heritage is recommending, right?
Which is actually far more radical, because whether you agree with every tenet of Project 2025, most of it is it's just mainstream conservative stuff that's been around for decades.
I think there's a website that says 2025truth.com or something like that kind of debunks all of
Debunks.
those complaints and what have you. But
Yeah, Trump needs to
it's
stop
just
bringing that up.
he needs
It's
to.
an unforced error, honestly.
Oh, there's no question about it, because the people in his audience, I promise you, if they read that, they're going to agree with 90% of it.
Yeah, and who is he even appealing to? Who is he
Who's
going to
he trying to
change
appeal
by?
to? That's right.
Yeah, but that's Donald Trump. He's always kind of struggled with that. He
Yeah.
secretly wants the New York Times and all of those people to
He
really
does.
like
There's
him.
no question about it.
Yeah. Okay. So going into tonight, he does have, it seems like, more of an advantage than he had a month ago. Like the honeymoon period, I do think for the Harris-Walz campaign, I do think it has expired, and that Trump is really in a position to, for lack of a better term, have a vibe shift. And feelings do matter. We don't want them to matter. We want people to vote on policy. But the fact of the matter is, some people do
Yep.
vote based on feelings. So the Trump campaign does need to think, how do we change the feelings of the voters who do vote based on feelings?
That's true.
One thing that Kamala Harris can't say, that Trump can say to kind of create this like likable and relatable persona, he can always pivot back to as a father and grandfather.
Oh, no question. That's exactly
As a
what I was
father and
thinking.
grandfather.
Yeah.
She can't say that.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's a really personal touch that he can
Right.
add. And it's not fake. His kids and grandkids love him.
Right.
That's what's appealing about Trump to me.
Right. No, yeah. But you also have to know, too, that there is a chance for him to change, and it's better, or for him to create a vibe. We also have to remember that the media is going to double down between now and the election. And this poll scared the media more than did anybody, probably,
Oh,
because
yeah.
they're going to double down on this, and they can't abandon Harris. They have nowhere else to go. See, they
Yeah.
could abandon Biden,
Yeah.
but they can't abandon Harris. They have nowhere else to go, and so it is going to be a really interesting several weeks. I can promise you that.
Y'all, I love Range Leather. Their products are top notch. They last forever. They have a lifetime guarantee. They are handmade in Laramie, Wyoming. This is another family owned company. They are Christians, and they started this company because they wanted to make high quality leather products that you can buy and keep forever, or you can give as a really awesome gift that will last a lifetime. They are passionate about their products, and they put that passion into every single thing that they make, whether it's belts or wallets or hats. They make these amazing custom hats they have for Relatable that I love. And I love their jewelry and their purses. I have several things from Range Leather that I use all the time because they're so cute and also just really high quality. If you go to rangeleather.com/Allie, you'll save 15% off any product. That's rangeleather.com/Allie. Okay, let's talk about this ACLU questionnaire, because as we've talked about, Kamala Harris is trying to present herself as independent. And, that's what Biden did too.
Yeah.
They want those people in the swing states. And so that's her strategy. So here's the summary of this. This is reported by CNN. As Kamala Harris attempts to pivot to the political center in her presidential campaign, CNN recently reported on a 2019 questionnaire from the ACLU, which spotlights her support for radical left-wing causes such as taxpayer-funded gender. Okay, this is such a weird dystopian sentence. This is what Kamala Harris supports, according to CNN, okay, and the ACLU. Taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained immigrants and drastically reducing ICE operations and funding. So this was a questionnaire that she filled out when she was running for president back in 2019.
Yep.
That's what she says that she supports. And of course, she doesn't believe that crossing the border illegally is even a crime. She wouldn't detain or deport those people. So what's your take on that?
Well, the words are the words, right? And they're her words. So you have to believe that those are true. Think about this. When I remember talking to some people before the 2020 election, and where people said, well, Joe Biden is really kind of a middle of the road guy. He's not too far left, or he's a middle of the road guy. And how has he governed? Way, way to the left, correct?
Yeah,
That's been his policies.
totally.
Now, Kamala, I don't even know, Miss Harris, she starts out way over here. Everybody, I think, all the data shows that she starts out further left than President Biden did,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So which way, you think she's going to move to the right
Yeah.
or to the left? No, she's going to, those policies that she talked about there are the ones that her values, when she talked about her values not changing, it's true. Her values are, I want an open border, I want government control of everything, including health care, and I want government control of your children. And no parents should be involved. You really, it's really not your money. Remember, Obama said, Joe, you didn't build that business, we built it. And she is left of all of that. And so I don't understand how people, including some in our extended family, can look at that and say, hey, this is what's best for my grandkids.
Yeah. I don't understand that either. And, when we look at immigration, we talked about this last week when she was district attorney of San Francisco, when she was attorney general of California, she pushed some of the policies that led to the murders of people like Kate Steinle. And of course, I mean, she was border czar when poor Laken Riley in Athens, Georgia was brutally murdered while she was on a run on a Sunday morning by an illegal Venezuelan alien that was only here because our border is open. And Kamala Harris oversaw that. And she wants people to believe now that she has the best interest of America at heart.
And this whole border situation with the border bill that said 5,000 people could come over, a day, an average. Well, people didn't realize, and after, if it got above that, then we're going to shut it down. Well, that's 2 million people.
Right.
That's automatically saying 2 million people each year can come over. Okay.
And you're talking about the legislation that Congress wrote up that it didn't end up passing, right? Because it didn't go through the Senate. But people said, but that's a talking point by Democrats to say, well, we've come up with a comprehensive border security bill that Republicans didn't want. And you're saying, yeah, that's what?
That's a lie. It wasn't comprehensive. It was only more open borders is all it was. And it was throwing money at a problem, which Congress is noted to do.
Yeah, especially Democrats.
And it didn't have anything to do with securing the border first. So that's just that's a lie. And she is, as she's proven, she hadn't been to Europe and she hadn't been to the border.
Yeah. So here's what she said. I mean, just so radical on abortion, gender, immigration, while she was senator, while she was attorney general of California, like, her track record is so frightening. So this is according to that ACLU survey. Harris was asked if, as president, she would use executive authority to ensure that transgender and non-binary people who rely on the state for medical care, including those in prison and including those in immigration detention, will have access to comprehensive treatment associated with gender transition, including all necessary surgical care. She answered yes. That's why, as Attorney General, I pushed the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation to provide gender transition surgery. Okay, so we are talking about men who decide, you know what, the women's prison over there, that's a lot cushier. I could maybe not have to deal with this violence over here. And this is not a hyperbolic example. This actually happens. They can go through chemical castration. They can get on hormones, be transferred to the women's prison, which already happens in California, Washington, all of these liberal states. And even if they don't get any kind of surgery, so they're fully intact males, they can be housed with a vulnerable woman. There are women in women's prison in these liberal states who have been raped and impregnated by these men who say that they're women. That's what Kamala Harris stands for. And she says not only does she stand for that, but I want your tax dollars, your hard-earned money, to pay for men to be placed in women's prisons and to assault the most vulnerable women in our population in prison. That's what Kamala Harris, the moderate, stands for.
It is just irrational to even think someone could say that this is okay and therefore I support that. But that's what they've done in California. That's where she's from. That's what she supports. And again, it goes now not just to the prisons, down to the children. You know, she supports not having parents notified by the teachers if the child,
says they're confused. That can lead to a parent losing custody of their child, which has happened multiple times. We've had those parents on this podcast. I mean, you can bet your bottom dollar Kamala Harris is going to weaponize the DOJ to accomplish everything that she wants to accomplish
There's
on
no
that.
question about that. That's for sure going to happen. Not even that's even before we get to the economy, right? And
Yeah.
inflation and all those types of things that it's just been crazy under her
Yeah.
watch.
Okay, y'all, let me tell you about Covenant Eyes. Did you know that there is an epidemic happening right now, spreading right now among young women, even young women in the church? And it is pornography. We think of this as only like a man's battle, but there's this 2016 Barna study that found that 1 in 3 Christian women were struggling with pornography use. Unfortunately, it's just ubiquitous, it's everywhere. And this is something that young men and women are having to battle against. And we are excited to share a brand new resource for women by women. It's called Arise. Arise is a 21-day video series from Covenant Eyes designed specifically for Christian women. It's a resource to help women overcome porn addiction and begin their journey to sexual healing. You can join a safe, confidential community of women where your story and struggle matter. You'll find hope and freedom and the tools to combat this addiction. Go to ariseforwomen.com. It's a free resource from Covenant Eyes, ariseforwomen.com. Of course, the economy is a sore point, I think, for Harris, as it should be.
It should
And
be,
let's
yeah,
talk
that's
about
right.
that when it comes to, I mean, it's under her watch, as you said. She's been in the White House for the past 4 years. What specifically has the Harris-Biden administration done to make inflation so bad?
Well, what they've done, the first thing they did is they've continued even after COVID to flood the economy with money, meaning that they, once the economy began turning around after COVID, which it had already started doing in 2020, they continued to allow people to get unemployment for extended periods of times, right? They increased entitlements, SNAP benefits, all those types of things. They like $6 trillion is what the deficit. They spent more than they took in by $6 trillion.
Wow.
Now, if any of the families of the people that are listening today spend, even 20% more than what they take in, they're going to go bankrupt, right? But yet there's no accountability for doing that. So what happened with that is the supply chain and all those types of things that initially helped prices go up, they just were able to stay up because the extra money that was in the economy at the time. For example, and I brought I want to make a couple examples for you because I looked this up. In 2019, the price of milk was $3.
Mm-hmm.
Today, it's $4.44. That's 46% increase.
Wow.
46%. Bread, $2.17 for a loaf, $3.49 is the average today. 60% increase. Hamburger meat, just a pound of hamburger, $3.81. $5.80 today.
Yeah.
50%.
And that's not even like the organic.
No, this is just
grass-fed.
your average basic. And they talk about wages going up since they've been in. Wages have gone up 16%. But when this type of stuff goes up 50, 60%, you're actually going backwards. In fact, the best one that I have is that I brought a prop today. Kind of reminds me of Carl Rowe's little board he did. But Carl couldn't write this small. So in 2019, this dozen eggs, just like this, $1.53 for a dozen, okay? Now, I don't think the egg has changed much since 2019. It's pretty much the same thing. Would you agree with that?
I think so.
But today, that same dozen eggs is $3.08.
Wow.
And I don't think the chickens are getting paid more. I mean,
Yeah.
It's just the inflation of pumping money into the economy caused that. That's why the Fed had to put the brakes on that by raising interest rates. And so
Yeah.
they caused all of this. and then they raised interest rates so that people couldn't afford things. It basically forced them not to be able to buy more, right?
Yeah.
Which was totally crazy. And now it's gone too far because what did they do? Overstate the jobs report by 800,000 new jobs. They said they had created 800,000 more new jobs than they did this year. I mean, it's crazy.
Oh,
They had
yeah.
to restate
Tell
that.
me about that, because that's a talking point. A few talking points that I hear from the left is, well, they inherited such a bad economy because of Donald Trump. They don't mention
1.4%
COVID.
inflation when he left.
So they say they inherited such a disaster from Donald Trump. They've tried to clean it up. I've even heard this is a great economic recovery. Inflation has gone down, and the Biden administration created way more jobs than the Trump administration did.
Well, let's go back to the inflation thing for just a minute, because I want to remind people this $3.08, okay? When they say inflation is now at 3%, all that means, instead of it being $3.08, it's not going back to $1.53. It's going to go up 3% from here. So when they say inflation's under control, that's after it had already gone up in the price of an egg.
It's not like prices are going down.
It's not going backwards now. And then so they say they created all these jobs, but just this year alone, their own government agency had to come out a week or two ago and say, year to date, we overstated the number of jobs we created by 800,000 jobs. That is a lot. I mean, if that would have been on the Republican side, there would be hearings going on that and investigations and criminal charges and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. So also one thing that people don't mention when they say all this job creation, the inherited bad economy by Biden, is they completely ignore COVID and the disaster that COVID caused and the lost jobs.
Of course they do,
and the economic turmoil that we were in because of COVID.
I think I read that something like, and I could be wrong on this, but somewhere in the 60 to 75% number, the jobs that they're claiming they created were people going back to work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's not growth in an economy, right? That's not, that's like me taking $2 from you and then giving you $1.50 back and saying I gave you $1.50, right?
Right.
It doesn't work like that.
And a lot of it is like, it has nothing to do with anything that Biden has done. A lot of moms, for example, they started working from home.
Yeah.
They took a part-time job. They stopped working.
Yeah.
And maybe their kid for 2 years was homeschooled or was home from preschool. Their kid's in kindergarten now, their kid's back in school, so they're going back to work. That really has nothing to do with Biden's economy being good. It might actually be that they feel like they have to work because of the rising costs, and now they need two incomes. That's not necessarily a positive economic result.
No, no, absolutely not. And the other thing too that people need to understand when Harris talks about raising the tax on corporations or raising the tax on wealthy people, just remember all of that trickles down. If you raise the cost of you doing business, all right, or for this company doing business, then if somebody imposes an increased cost on you, you're going to either figure out how to raise the price to the consumers or your advertisers or whatever, because you're not going to just freely, oh yeah, will you raise the price on me, so I'll just make less money. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
When you raise the price on corporations, they're going to pass that on down as much as they can to the end user.
And it's not just people think, oh, when there's an increase on corporate tax, it's just the CEO that's going to be affected, and CEOs make too much money.
No,
anyway,
it has nothing to do. In fact, it's not going to affect him at all or her at all, probably. It's not going to have
it affects the employees.
Yeah, it is a cost. It's a rising of cost on the everyday American.
Yeah.
And it's all about taking money from one group of people and giving it to the other. That's like her proposal to give first-time home buyers free $25,000.
Yeah.
Only though if you're a first-generation homeowner.
Oh.
And you know what? That's virtue signaling that unless you are a minority, forget about it, buddy.
Yeah. So that's what that's what she's
trying to accomplish. And where do you think the 25,000 is coming from?
Yeah.
It's coming from you and me.
And I don't care if you make
$50,000 or $400,000. She's taking some of your tax money and giving it to somebody else.
Right.
And if you want to give to somebody else, that's your choice, okay? There are
Yeah.
plenty of, you can give to Habitat for Humanity
Yeah.
if that's what you want to do, but it's your choice.
Yeah.
It's not
And so,
forced on you.
say you've got someone, because, okay, theoretically, say you've got a couple, they're first generation home buyers, but they're doing pretty well. You know, they're making $400,000 a year. You've got this other couple over here. They're struggling to get by. Maybe they're making a total of $70,000 a year, but their parents owned a house. They really could use more help.
Right.
But instead, what's happening is that Harris is saying, I'm going to give $25,000 to this couple over here, right? Because they're first generation, first time home buyers, even though they're making more money. But not this couple over here because their parents happen to own a house. And I'm going to take money from this couple and give it to this couple over
exactly what's
here,
happening. Yeah.
even though they're making more money. That is so-called equity. That is social justice, and it's not just.
But you know what else it is? It's class warfare. I mean, it's pitting people against people. That's not what America is about. Your mom and I went to see the Reagan movie last night, and man, it's such a reminder of what our vision should be for America and what a great communicator and actually very ardent policy person that he was, right? And that he just believed in the people, right?
Yeah.
He believed in the people. And also he was a person of very strong faith.
He was.
And of course, that's one of the areas that we've kind of gotten away from. We just want to go along. Well, let's just go along with this and it'll be okay. Again, exactly what happened,
Yeah.
in Germany. And we're not going to do that because people like you and others around and the everyday American, we're not going to do that. So I don't know what's going to happen in this election. We have the opportunity for the good guys to win. But even if it does, even if they don't, we're not going to lay down and say, okay, I tried and we failed. No, we're going to keep fighting because it's not about fighting for me. It's fighting for you and for those children of yours and Justin's kids and everybody else's kids. That's what it's about. And that's what we're going to do. And at the end, we will win. Like Ronald Reagan said, when George Shultz asked him as Secretary of State, we need a better messaging on Russia. We win, they lose. Ultimately, that's what's going to happen.
Amen. Yes. I love Reagan. Everyone should read his autobiography in addition to seeing the
In his own words, is that the one you're talking about? Reagan?
It's called An American Life.
Oh, I read that,
Yes, and it's very good. And he was, a man of faith. He was very deeply pro-life. He also was a total wife guy. He loved his wife.
He
and
did.
I just think that that's very charming. And I read a book by her about him and their love story and the letters that they wrote to each other. And I just thought that was
so nice.
Yeah, it was really sweet. It makes you nostalgic for a different, even though I wasn't alive during his presidency, but you're right. It's not like hope is lost, and we shouldn't think that it is. Okay, last thing. Even
Before
though
you get on that, one more thing about Reagan.
Please.
Sorry. So when you go to the movie, folks, a lot of it is filmed, or a good amount of it is filmed at the ranch they had in California.
Was it Rancho de Cielo?
Yeah, and Mom and I had the ability to, which is not open to the public, okay, to go into the house they lived in, and it looks exactly like it did in the movie. And that's how it's really cool.
That is cool.
But we were able to do that. We had our picture made in there, and that was just a really cool thing. Yeah, it was a really cool type of thing to be able to actually get in the house. And they live very modestly. The house really is probably 1,000 square feet or 1,200, something like that. But anyway, it's really, really cool. And sad towards the end, obviously. But, he was also some man that was humble because he went to the American people, you remember, and wrote the letter that he had Alzheimer's and he was entering the last phase of his life. I mean, it was a really cool thing.
Yeah. I remember when he died.
Yeah.
That was early 2000s,
I had it written on the side of my golf cap for a long time. Yeah.
Oh.
June 5th, 2004.
Yeah. Last sponsor for the day is Preborn. So many of you guys ask me, how can you be involved in the pro-life movement? How can you help save babies and serve moms? Well, getting involved with Preborn is a really great way to do that. This is a large network of clinics that provides these free resources, including free sonograms for pregnant women who are in need. They save thousands of lives every year by providing these sonograms, because a mom is so much more likely to choose life when she actually sees the humanity of her unborn child on that sonogram screen. A free sonogram costs $28. If you go to preborn.com/Allie and you donate just $28, you are helping save a life by offering this free sonogram. But whatever you can donate, maybe it's $5,000, maybe it's $5, you can help Preborn serve these moms and babies. Go to preborn.com/Allie to donate. That's preborn.com/Allie. I want to end on, even though that would be a great exclamation mark to end on, I want to say one more thing about the debate tonight. And advice that you would give Trump. I have my own thoughts. Advice that you would give Trump on a question that I think is sure to come up: gun control. They're going to tell the horrible story of what happened in Georgia. They're especially going to tell it because that's a swing state. And I know that sounds cynical, but that's how the media is functioning. So they're going to say, what do you think about gun control? What do you think about common sense gun legislation? And they're going to use that story to question him about it. What do you think he should say?
Well, I think he should start by saying, I am 100% in support of the Second Amendment, which allows our citizens to have the right to bear arms. I think they should be able to do that. However, I do believe that there are people in our country who shouldn't be allowed, who should have more control. And that's obviously convicted felons. That's people maybe that have a mental issue, a challenge that would not allow them to make the best decisions. And I would say that we need to do whatever we can to provide safety to our kids and our families. But also am not going to take the right away from a law-abiding citizen to protect themselves and their family. I'm never going to be in favor of that, because at the end of the day, if we do that, the only people left with the guns are the government and the criminals.
But I repeat myself. I think that if he could pull it off, I think it would be great if he started out by saying in a concise way, a few weeks ago, God spared my life. I was almost assassinated by a young man with a gun. A bullet grazed my ear. By the grace of God, I'm still here. That was a life-changing experience for me. I know better than most people the potential danger that guns pose. And then I think he could transition into saying, as you said, the support for the Second Amendment, the importance of law-abiding people being able to exercise that right of self-defense, and then also emphasize his desire to do whatever it takes to end school shootings, to protect children, to upgrade the security apparatus that protects children in these schools. If there is a law that comes across his desk that will put an end to school shootings, that does not compromise the right of law-abiding people to defend themselves, then he may be in support of that. What is not a solution is, as you said, confiscating the guns of law-abiding people who want to protect their families. And that is the only solution that Kamala Harris has given. That's not a real solution.
Right.
All that she has proposed is gun confiscation. Raphael Warnock, he is a senator from Georgia. He said just recently in an interview, I think it was with CNN, that he supports Kamala Harris's support of confiscating guns, confiscating what they call assault weapons. That's not a real solution. It's not going to happen.
No.
It violates the Second Amendment. So if you are serious about ending school shootings, bring all of your solutions to the table. But gun grabbing is not a real solution.
Yeah.
And that's the only solution that she's given. So she must not be serious about ending school shootings. So I think he can go personal. I think he can talk about, again, as a father and grandfather,
Yeah.
wants to
think that's
protect
good.
those kids.
Yeah.
But he is not going to violate the rights of you and me protecting ourselves. Because guess what? No one is safer when you and I don't have the right to defend ourselves.
It's not.
We're more vulnerable. Your kids are more vulnerable.
That's exactly right.
So she is the candidate of disorder and chaos. He is the candidate, should be, of order and peace. And I think that's the contrast that they have to paint.
I think they do, and I think they do have to paint that, and I hope that they will. Although, if you could back out today, President Trump, back out. No, I'm joking on that one.
At this point, gotta go with it.
We got to go with it. We'll be watching it tonight.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'll be here. Blaze TV is doing coverage. I'll be here for the pre-show analysis and giving my thoughts there. So tune into that. I think everyone can go to blazetv.com/Allie. If you're not a subscriber, use code Allie to subscribe. You get access to all kinds of exclusive content, including our analysis, and then other Blaze hosts will be here after the show, but that's past my bedtime. And so they will be giving you the analysis in my stead. All right, Dad, thank you so much. Do you want to tell people again about your book?
Oh, well, Life Lessons from the Little Red Wagon. And the cool thing about it is there's this conference coming up where this book is going to be available.
What is it?
Called Share the Arrows.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine that?
That sounds like an amazing conference.
There may even be a book package thing that's available for that. So it could be good. But I think you'll love this book.
Especially if you're a VIP ticket holder.
Oh, there's no question about that. VIP ticket holders may even maybe a signed copy available to that.
Maybe
so. It's really good. I'd encourage, I know conference going to be attended by ladies. Very good book to buy. Not only I think they would enjoy it too. It's got a lot of great stories in there, but also for their husbands.
Yeah.
Or their
sons,
special other one, their sons. Definitely for their sons.
Yeah.
I think this is a really, really good book for them. So.
Yeah, it is. And
you can get it. You can get it at the conference.
Yeah.
You can get it on Amazon.
If you're an audiobook person, you're a busy mom. I like to listen to audiobooks. He read it himself.
Yes.
And Reagan.
And Ronald Reagan also joined in with me. He actually reads part of my book.
Yes.
Very hard to get that these days.
Yes. We'll put a link in the description of this episode. It's really, really good. Okay, Dad, thanks so much.
Oh, it was a great time. Thank you.